Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Serin. I was not going to take a video today because it's so freaking hot in Cambodia. It's 38 degrees right now. Well, 38. The actual feeling of this temperature, it's over 42. It's no joke. It says it's 38, but there's no way this is 38 degrees. So that's why I'm using my AC, I'm using my ceiling fan, so it might be a little bit noisy because of the ceiling fan, but please understand because it's so freaking hot here in Cambodia. Anyhow, yeah, I am back in front of my camera again after the video that I uploaded about updates that I had given you. Well, the reason why I wanted to talk in front of my camera today is that I just wanted to tell you about why I don't work in Korea, why I don't live in Korea, and why I don't have any plans to settle down in Korea for the next at least 10 to 15 years. I was born and raised in South Korea. I was not born in Seoul, which is the capital city, and which is also the place that I was raised. I was born in a city called Masan, which is my mom's hometown. I was born in Masan, but then as soon as I was born, I was brought back to Seoul because that's where my parents lived with my older sister. So I was raised in Seoul. So yeah, that's my life. I had done every single education in my life from kindergarten to university in Seoul. There were some good memories. There are some times that I actually feel very nostalgic about, and good stuff, good memories for sure. Growing up in Seoul, being in school and being in education system in South Korea, there are things that I enjoyed growing up in Seoul as a student, but all in all, it's very stressful and it can be really competitive. Usually starts in middle school. If your parents are very competitive and super into your education and everything, then your life can, well, your study life, your academic life can pretty much start when you are in elementary school. I was pretty lucky though. My parents were not as pushy or as really academic focused parents as my friends' parents were. Growing up in a household where your parents are not as pushy or not as competitive, academically speaking, I was pretty lucky. My parents were never really pushing me to study hard. They were never really giving me any pressure when it comes to my school performance. So I would say I was one of the lucky students in Seoul, especially if you are raised in a big city like Seoul, like in one of the major cities in South Korea, then you know what, you would know what I'm saying. If you're Korean, if you were born and raised in Korea, especially in one of those major big cities, you would understand what I'm saying. It can get really competitive, very stressful. Let me tell you about my high school life. I would wake up before 6:30. I would go to school around 7:30, and I would have classes up until 5 o'clock. And then I would have dinner, and then I would come back to my classroom in my school, and I would do self-study until 11 o'clock at night, and I would come home at 11:30. That was my life when I was in high school for 3 years. I didn't have any vacation whatsoever. That is not just my life, that is life for pretty much every high school student. We had options though. I preferred studying at school, so I stayed at school, studied up until 11 o'clock at night. But some of my friends, they either went to private academies so that they can study there, or they took private tutoring sessions or whatnot. So you have options, but those options are not including not study. You have to study either at school or somewhere else. That's pretty much what it is like. Right now, I'm pretty sure, I don't think the competitiveness when it comes to the academic skills and performance in middle school and high school in Korea got ever less than that. I'm pretty sure it's still very competitive and stressful, which is one of the reasons why I don't want to live in South Korea. Because when I think of it, I guess I should tell you this first. I would love to get married at some point, and I would love to have children at some point. I have no idea when that's gonna happen, but I have this, you know, grandiosity of dreams that I would like to achieve in my future. I would love to marry, I would love to have kids, and I thought about it, and I don't want to raise my kids in South Korea. And that's one of the big reasons. That's one of the biggest reasons why I don't want to raise my kids in South Korea, because it's way too competitive and it's way too stressful for a child to grow up. And I have experienced it, and I had rather liberal and comparably, relatively speaking, chill, relaxed parents, and I was still stressed out. And can you even imagine your parents are so academically focused and would always put so much pressure on your shoulders to do the best, be the best, and go to one of these most prestigious universities in Korea? You have no idea. It can get really stressful. So I was raised by parents who were rather chill and rather relaxed, comparably speaking. But I was still stressed out, because even though I was not getting any pressure from my parents, I still got a lot of pressure from my school, peer pressure. So yeah, I did not enjoy my middle school and high school life as much as I wanted myself to. And I don't want my future children, my future kids, to go through that. So that's one of the reasons why I don't want to live in South Korea, because I know if I go back to South Korea, I will settle down there, live there, maybe I don't know, meet a guy there, marry there, build a family there, and I would be raising the possibility of myself raising my children in South Korea. And it would probably be Seoul if I ever go back to South Korea and then decide to settle down there, because I don't want to live anywhere else other than Seoul, because that's where I was raised. I feel the most comfortable, I feel the most secure, I feel the most relaxed when I'm in Seoul, because that's where I'm from. Despite the fact that I feel the most comfortable in Seoul, I don't see myself raising my future children in Seoul. I don't want to put my kids, if I ever am going to have kids in the future, I don't want to put my kids in a situation where he or she has to be stressed out all the time, get pressured because of the school performance, all the exams and study, cram time. I don't want to do that to anyone. It's just not my child or like my kids, but I don't want to do that to just anyone. So for the future, I don't know if I ever get married or not, but that's what I'm planning. I would like to, you know, have a family, build a family at some point, but I don't see myself doing that in Seoul. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm not trying to or even planning to settle down in Seoul, even though I feel the most comfortable in Seoul, because that's my home. Another reason that I wanted to share here is that, to me, since I was really young, I had this feeling in me that I just don't fit into South Korean society as much as I wanted myself to. It's actually a really weird feeling for someone like me who was born and raised there to feel. Because, like, of course, if I were sort of a third culture kid, let's say I was born in Seoul, but let's say I was born in Korea, but I was never raised there, I would you know, I would be raised in America or somewhere else, then it's understandable that I would have this identity crisis sort of thing. But it wasn't even a case for me. I wasn't like that. I was born and raised in South Korea, but yet somehow I would have this gut feeling in myself that I just don't really fit into this society. I told my parents ever since I was in middle and high school, I would tell them I would love to study abroad. I want to go abroad. I want to live abroad. That never happens for various reasons, but I've always felt that way since I was really young. And I went to university in South Korea, and I desperately wanted to do exchange program, just somewhere else, the US or maybe some European universities. That also didn't happen for some various reasons. I don't want to go through all these details of the reasons why I was not able to do the exchange student program, but that didn't happen. So I decided to take a gap year after third semester in my university, and then I started working in Krispy Kreme and I saved up some money, and then I went to Europe for 2 months, which was the first time ever that I had ever been out of South Korea. So until I was 20, even though I knew I don't really fit into this society, or I don't really want to stay in South Korea forever, I had never been out of South Korea. But then I had this fantasy and I had these dreams of living, working, or studying abroad, but that never really happened in my life until I was 20. And then I finally went to Europe for 2 months, and I was not even able to speak good English. My English was really bad, but I still did it. And that was probably one of the biggest and the best decisions that I have ever made in my life. Just taking the gap year, working, saving the money up, and just go to Europe to travel. I really liked it. I enjoyed every second of my time in Europe. And that's when I started realizing, okay, my gut feeling was actually right. I started seeing myself more as a person who doesn't really fit in South Korea, even more than the past. Hence, I'm not living in South Korea. I can't really understand or even explain why I feel this way. Even though, you know, I'm from Seoul, I feel the most comfortable in Seoul. I love Korean food. I can die for Korean food, basically. I love it. I obviously speak Korean, I'm Korean, so I have no issue of living in Seoul. But it's weird, ever since I started traveling when I was 20, I would go abroad and then come back to Korea, and maybe for like a week or so I would feel welcome. I would feel, okay, this is my home, now I'm safe. But after some time I would start developing this feeling of not fitting into society again, and I would just want to go out again. I'm planning to go back to Korea, not to settle down, this July. I would probably spend like a good few weeks, at least 2 to 3 months in Seoul, spending time with my friends and family. I would love that because I haven't been home since September 2020, so I would love it. I know for sure that I will have so much fun and such a great time with my friends and family. But all in all, yeah, I don't really feel like first of all, I'm not ready to settle down. I'm trying to go back to school and do my master's. And second of all, I might maybe in the future feel more fitting into Korean society, and I might actually go back to Korea. I might want to settle down at some point. I might actually want to marry a Korean guy. I might want to have like a, I don't know, like quintessential Korean family that you can ever see in Korean dramas, series, whatever, or whatnot. Maybe in the future, but for now, as of now, I still don't have that motivation to go back to Korea and then live my life in Korea. To be fair though, I was born and raised there, and I lived pretty much like forever. Like the entire time period of my life in South Korea, and I thought it was enough. I still do believe it was enough for me to do so. Hence I started traveling, I started living abroad, I started making international friends, and I have no regrets of it. I do love my life here. I at least feel good that I'm doing it. I am doing what I have always wanted to do when I was in high school. I've always wanted to live abroad, I've always wanted to work abroad, and now I'm finally planning to study abroad, which is one of the things that I've always wanted to do. So yeah, I'm trying to do that. I really don't know. I really have no explanation that I can give you about how and why I feel about living in South Korea, which I do have a lot of foreign friends. They would look at South Korea thinking that, oh my goodness, this is such an amazing country. Your culture is amazing, the food is amazing, South Korean people are so friendly. We would like to move there, live there. Do it. Please do it. If you have the passion to do it, you really have to. To me, I have literally completely the opposite perspective because I'm from there. I lived there. I really don't have any fantasy about South Korea because I'm from there. Like we always say, you know, grasses are always greener. I would always have this amazing fantasy of living somewhere like South America, Europe, America, or Africa even. But my friends who are from somewhere else, they would always have this fantasy of living in Japan, living in South Korea, living somewhere else, and you know, grass is greener, always. And I don't understand that. That's why I don't really have the motivation to go back to South Korea to settle down there. If you are like me, let's say if you are one of these people who are born and raised in one country, but then you never felt like you fit into the society, you have always felt like you want to get out of it, you want to do something else in somewhere else, please comment down below. I really don't have explanation for this. I'm not a third culture child. I was born and raised in South Korea, but somehow I just developed this weird feeling that I don't want to live in Korea anymore, which I don't know, could be understandable, but at the same time, majority of my Korean friends, they seem fine. They live, work in Korea, and of course they want to travel abroad, but to me, it seems like they feel comfortable living in South Korea, which is good because I can feel exactly the same thing. Whenever I go back to South Korea, that's literally the only country that I can feel the most comfortable because I'm from there. But at some point, I just developed this feeling that I just want to get out of the country for some reason. So if you're like me, if you have ever felt this way, if you have ever felt like you want to escape your own society, your own country, your own nationality, and just do something else somewhere else, please comment down below. Let's talk. I would love to talk about this topic. If you're a third culture child, please comment down below as well. I would love to hear from your perspective and learn from there because I genuinely want to explain this weird state of my mind. My friends are asking me, oh, you're coming back to Korea in July, congratulations, now you're gonna settle down. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna settle down in Korea. My friends are like, oh, why? It's time for you to come back and live your life in Korea. I'm like, no. Maybe when I'm in my 40s or maybe 50s, but at least when I'm in my 20s and 30s, like, heck no, I don't want to do that. So my friends are getting a little bit disappointed because they're like, finally Serin is coming back and she's gonna live her life here, she's going to be around us. And I'm like, I love you guys, and I love Korea, and I love Seoul, I love Korean food, I love my culture, I love my language, I love every bit of South Korea, but not living, at least in my 20s and 30s. So yeah, let's talk about it. If you feel the same way, please let me know in the comment section. Let's talk about it. But that was it for today's video, and I hope you are having an amazing day. Today it's really hot in Cambodia, so I'm a little bit struggling with this heat wave. It's not fun at all. But yeah, I'm doing quite well. At least I'm trying to have a good life here. And I hope you are doing exactly the same. You know, we all have bad days, good days, but let's get the positivity in ourselves, all right? Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will talk to you in the next video about something else. Bye!